Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Breaking News with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about tariff chaos, which is making Nintendo balk on Switch 2 pre-orders, at least in the United States. It's going to be a show. I don't know if it's a good one. I got Jan Ochoa with me. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Nothing bad could happen today or
As far as
yesterday.
I'm aware, nothing bad can ever happen to us.
Right. Yep, that's true. As long as you keep smiling, Grubb, everything's going to be fine.
I just want to be stupid and happy, Jan. That's all I need. It's not working. Yeah, we're gonna get into it all, but boy, it is. It's hitting the fan today. It's gone sideways, and it just feels like hopeless, and it feels like it could get worse in a lot of ways. And that's just the video games. Oh boy, it's gonna be a show, everybody.
Gamers,
Let's explain what we.
Grab your power gloves, grab your Nintendo zappers, call your representatives, and head to the White House now.
Do something. Somebody do something. Go. You know what? Actually, let's just send Paul Reichert after him. I think that's what we do. I think we can get him to annoy him just into submission. I think that's possible. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Let's just get into it. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Breaking News or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders have been delayed due to tariffs. Release date is still, as of now, June 5th. This is from Stephen Petit at GameSpot, who got this statement from Nintendo. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start on April 9th, 2025. In order for us to assess the potential impact of tariffs and the evolving market conditions, and then parentheses, in the United States, Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. So there's obviously a lot of sides to this, but just right there, they were originally going to begin pre-orders with retail partners and themselves. Nintendo was going to do pre-orders through their website beginning on April 9th. Some people were already getting their confirmation emails from Nintendo saying exactly that. And the system was going to be $450 and then $500 bundled with Mario Kart World. That already felt like very high prices. And that's, Jan, they were definitely predicting tariffs. Like they factored tariffs into that price in the United States. And of course, then that filters out to the rest of the world. That's just how it works. They were like, okay, he's been talking about 25% tariffs, especially on China. He has a bone to pick with China constantly. Earlier this year, Furukawa was talking about how they were going to deal with this. They were asked explicitly about the potential of uncertainty in tariffs, and they told investors and the people that represent investors that, hey, we are diversifying where we produce these things, including Vietnam and Cambodia. And lo and behold, hours after the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, on Liberation Day itself, Jan Ochoa, Donald Trump announced, I think it's 46% and 49% trade embargoes, tariffs on Vietnam and Cambodia. They are the ones that actually get hit the hardest. Mm-hmm. So all that really means is when Nintendo ships those consoles in from those countries, and I suppose like they could get creative and try to launder them through some other country, I guess, but all countries across the world have like a baseline tariff built in now of like 10%. Most of them have higher than that, though. Like the UK has a 10% tariff that's new, and that's just baseline. But most people are higher than that. But if they try to ship a console from Cambodia or Vietnam or China, which is also going to have high tariffs, obviously, they will have to basically pay about an extra 50% on the price of that good. So that's all the money. Now, they were expecting 25%, mostly just on China. And like the pricing reflects that. The pricing sort of, we know what they want to charge for this thing, Jan, or like what they like in a perfect world.
Yeah.
what they would have been okay with charging on the low end, which is
Mhm.
what they are charging for the Japanese language only region locked version of the Switch 2 in Japan that they are going to sell at retail there. That's about $300, $330 in that range. You add, you know, 25% on top of that, and you get to about what the price is here. And then you have to factor in currency as well. Um, so yeah, like that, it made sense. Like they were like, we're going to price this in. We're going to go to the high end so we can be prepared and be agile. And no one was thinking that there would be about 50% tariffs on Vietnam and Cambodia. Clearly not Nintendo, but no one was. It was just completely out of nowhere. It is insane. It's bad policy. It just straight up is bad policy. No one was expecting this, and now Nintendo's in a just unprecedented position of having to figure out, like, are they going to raise the price on this, or what are they going to do? I mean, Jim, what happens next? I have no idea.
I absolutely have no idea, and it seems insane that there are people trying to look on the positive side of this and trying to push forward the ideal of, well, why doesn't Nintendo just make these consoles in America? Yeah, let's go ahead and try and create an infrastructure, a workforce that is non-existent. Yeah, let's go make these in Washington, where Nintendo's based out of in America. Yeah, where is any of these chips going to come from in America? It is absolutely insane. It is asinine to think that that is something you can do, and to think that none of this is targeted, that none of this is politically motivated by these tariffs being specifically put onto Vietnam, Cambodia, China. It's insane because Grubb, like, they were already trying to build the price in with the 450, the 500,
Yeah.
and to see the projected price of how the region locked Switch 2 is going to be in Japan. The cards are on the table, and the cards are shit. It is too late to fold now,
Yep.
for us in the States. I don't know. Nintendo is in a terrible spot, and it is absolutely wild to me that the Nintendo Switch 2 may be the catalyst for people, I hate to say this, to finally wake the fuck up.
It does feel like a moment. Nintendo's position is bad. Obviously, everyone's relationship to this country right now is pretty bad, including the people who live here. Us, it's due process is now a question. That's fun. So we got a lot of issues. It's bad for everyone. I think you're right, though. Despite this government disappearing people, this is the kind of stuff that does break out. This is like everyone's like, look, I don't know what to do about this country saying the Constitution is applicable only in certain circumstances. That's big and scary, and I feel the same way. I don't know what to do about that. But I was really looking forward to the Switch 2 to help me forget about all this. I was watching some people play Mario Party today, and I was getting excited about a Mario Party game. So that's where I'm at. And I'm like, I know for a fact now that I was so ready to pay the price that they had already announced, because I'm like more mad now. I'm not going to be able to pre-order this thing on April 9th. And this is such a weird, awkward thing for a very, Switch 2 announcements all over mainstream news yesterday, right? It's a big new consumer electronics product that gets headlines from Marketplace on NPR and USA Today and all the nightly news shows, things like that. This sort of quick reversal and them explicitly stating it's because of tariffs, it's going to break through to that mainstream news as well. And maybe it does bring more attention to just how crazy this is, although everyone is well aware of the stock market diving and all that stuff, and talk once again of recessions. And it's bad from every angle, but it's this kind of lightning rod that can cause people to maybe pay more attention than they would otherwise. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gerb. Sorry.
Okay, so the other side of this obviously is, why stop pre-orders if you're going to end up charging the same price, right? Like, they're stopping pre-orders because they're not sure if this is the price they're going to go with anymore. And really, I don't think they would stop pre-orders even if they weren't sure. I think they're sure they're going to raise the price again. So let's go with this next story from Jessica Cogswell over at GameSpot. Switch 2 price likely to increase as Nintendo pulls U.S. pre-orders over Trump's new tariff policies. Following President Trump unveiling the controversial new tariff plan, Nintendo has announced that it is delaying U.S. pre-orders. Originally scheduled to start on April 9th, a Nintendo representative has since confirmed this date has been pushed back indefinitely in order for the company to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. As such, it is likely we will see a sizable increase in the console's price before it is relisted. The full statement, which was given to GameSpot via Nintendo spokesperson, can be found below. It's that one we already read. Nintendo's latest console has already been the subject of scrutiny and more than a few jokes due to its $450 price tag and the cost of its upcoming first-party titles. Following its reveal, Mario Kart World made headlines as Nintendo's priciest game that doesn't include a physical accessory, and yet it seems like prices will only go up from here. Okay, so let's do a little math, I guess. I'm not going to get a calculator out or something like that, but back to the napkin math. If it was 25% on just one of the territories in which they were producing this thing, and it was 330 up to 450, equivalent from the Japanese yen over to the U.S. dollar, from the Japanese market to the U.S. market or the global market, make that 50% instead, and we're talking 500, 550. I mean, at that point, maybe $600 because you don't know what's going to happen next. The reality is they don't know if these tariffs are going to go through, but they have to operate under the assumption that they will, because if they do, they're screwed. It's Nintendo. They hate losing money. We could definitely argue that they could just sell these things at a loss. They are probably going to have to sell these things at a loss, but there's no way they were making a 50% profit margin on the hardware, not this early on. Even though they use old hardware, components are still hard to come by. Like, it's that they still have to get in line for the for the fabricators to actually make these chips, and there's a lot of other like smaller chips that they have to get in line for, and that stuff has, since the pandemic, been hard to come by. Now they can demand a lot. It's Nintendo. They have a customer, or they have vendors that will serve them, but that stuff was already going to be expensive. I think that the likely scenario here is they try to just jack it up $50 and call it a day. 500, 550, and they're not going to be alone in this. If these tariffs stand, clearly PlayStation's going to go up, Xbox is going to go up, so it's going to make Nintendo not look like the outlier the way it did on April 2nd. But how much can we really stand? And at a certain point, it's like, God, do you even release this system? Obviously they're going to, but it just feels like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah, because Grubb, it's not just going to be consoles that are going to start increasing prices. It's going to be everything that uses chips, and that's appliances across the board now, with how our day to day has been affected by having smart devices in every little thing. Your game sets are going to start rising in prices. But the thing that I start worrying, Grubb, is that the government has been able to kind of clamp down and take away certain websites from certain states here in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is considered, though it messes with their agenda and everything, and and those people have been able to get by using other means.
Yes.
Now, the fact that this console may be priced in a way that is out of the realm of possibility for some people to get. I know that some people may be budgeting for $300, $400, $500. This may be going up to $600, maybe $700, and the price of games also increasing. And that audience, the gaming audience, becoming suddenly very vocal, and now a very important part of the voting demographic or whatever. I could see this government starting to clamp down on video games in a very hyper specific way that is asinine and so fucking backwards in the world.
I mean, they could try to implement tariffs on digital goods. Like, they really could. That money is going out of the country. Let's tax it on its way out. Like, when you make a digital purchase, that's something that I think Trump. Why would he not want to do that? He would want to do that. That's money that he would want to capture. And like, just like, tariffs are bad policy. I said that earlier. Like, why does he like them so much? It gives, like, just imagine you're in his position and you are obsessed with people coming to you and bending the knee. and begging you for stuff and putting you in the position where you get to say yes or no to the thing that they want most. Trump, tariffs are that every single time. Every single time he suggests a tariff, all of the leaders of all these businesses come to him and ask for exemptions. And so he loves this stuff, and we're going to get more of it, not less. It's like the one thing that he keeps doing. Like, why is this the one policy we keep coming back to? Because it's the one policy that leads directly to the thing he needs most, which is people coming there and saying how much they love him and how loyal they are to him. So yes, imagining ways in which this could expand into other aspects of our lives, into other aspects of video games is reasonable, because it's probably going to happen. Like, it's probably going to happen. And then if this does lead to a situation where there is a backlash because of this video game company saying they're going to delay things or raise a price explicitly because of Trump's tariffs, you're right. He could get petty and come back and begin regulating the industry and making things more expensive in other ways, or prohibiting things from being sold here, certain games. Yeah, and who's going to stop them? They haven't been able to stop them doing anything else. So, yeah, this could get really out of hand. And again, it's just video games. It's not people disappearing or due process being erased from the Constitution, but it's all part of the same thing. So it's worth talking about.
And I see people saying, well, he might walk it back, he might take it back, and
It might.
whatever. But the reality is, he already put this on paper to see if he could get away with it and see the outrage that, okay, if it's not, I'm not increasing tariffs by this percentage, I'll increase it by this percentage instead. And then,
or he'll delay it for a month and then get bored and do it again, which is what he's done over and over.
Exactly. So he's just like pushing and pushing and pushing to see with what he can get away with. And the reality is, he's going to keep trying to do that, even if he takes his word back on the existing tariffs now, or whatever else agenda he's going to push forward.
Yeah. This price could go up a lot. And, I think as they will try to, they could even raise it globally, although I don't think they will, but that could increase arbitrage. Part of this could be them deciding, like, let's allocate more systems to other territories while the U.S. sort of sorts this whole thing out. So there could be a huge supply crunch, worse than it would have been otherwise. And to go back to the idea of this creating domestic industry where these things are manufactured, no, that won't happen. But even if it did, it would take decades. It would take literally decades for that to happen. So it wouldn't have any effect on the Switch 2. And I don't even want to entertain that that's what this is about. It's never really about that. Like, he doesn't give a shit about anyone. Like, of course he doesn't. Are you joking? Like, this idea that, like, he listened to the news and they're saying the reason he's saying he's doing this is because it's going to reindustrialize America, which some experts disagree with. Like, to even credulously entertain that idea is an embarrassment. We shouldn't be doing that. But if we want to play in that space, just to pretend for a second, nah. No, it's a completely different economy than it was 150 years ago, and you just shouldn't be surprised. And then the people that could work those jobs, we don't let them in the country anymore.
Yeah.
Or we kick them out, we round them up, and we send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
So
we accidentally deport them and put them in jail.
Yes.
God. Our friend of the site, Mikey O'Leary, had Blue Sky posted on Blue Sky that it's worrying when Wario 64 has to put a price in parentheses.
Yes.
Because the prices may go up and up and up.
Yep. I still really want this thing. I want to Switch 2.
Yeah.
I want to find a way to get it. I right in this moment, it feels like, what is that even going to look like? Should I try to pre-order one in Windsor and go up there and cross the border and try to sneak it across without telling customs? So then because I think I would have to pay the tariff if I did that. Like, I don't know how that works exactly. I'm no expert, but like, you have to declare it. I don't know. So I'm going to be a bootlegger, Jan, is kind of what I'm thinking now.
Hey, Dan and I wound up on CBC, the Canadian broadcast channel. Maybe it's just time to move everyone up there.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Hey, let's do it. You guys were big stars there on the CBC. I liked seeing that. Hey, you did get to see this thing, Jan. You got to watch Dan play a lot of games. while a lot of people were yelling at Nintendo about lower the price. What were the vibes like at the event itself? We're like this is pretty good, right? That's kind of how you guys came away from it.
Have you ever what's the opposite of being in a burning building where everything else around you is burning, but you
Sure.
inside are having fun?
This is actually fine. You're the dog this time, actually in a safe space, and the forest across the street is burning this time.
Yeah,
Okay, I got
yes,
it.
yes, yes. When I say I got that dog in me, that is the dog I'm talking about. Uh, Politely sipping coffee, wearing a fedora, saying this is fine. The vibes inside were immaculate, Grub. Like
Yep.
everything was great. We were all having fun. And
And
then we
yeah.
step outside. Oh, okay, Sean. A bunker, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we're talking. Okay, yes, yeah, okay. You were in the Nintendo the Apocalypse Doomsday bunker. That sounds great to me.
Yeah. Yeah, the vibes
It's all
inside
just
were
one big rumpus room. I love it.
yes, yes. Everyone was super excited, Grub. Like, and Dan and I will probably talk about this later on BCR, but it felt very much like uh, an old press event, like an E3 of yore. You got to
It looked
see
like one.
peers in media. You got to see games journalists, Grub, like people existing in this profession all together, and like just chatting and talking together and sharing the excitement. And sure, there was the undercurrent of the room of like the price, because the price wasn't announced during the direct. And then like slowly people were learning about what this was supposed to cost, what the game carts were supposed to cost. But there was still the overall excitement in the room about like, yo, this thing works. This thing is not a Wii U. This is the Switch 2. This is like the sequel, and this is going to be like the Back to the Future 2 of the original hit movie.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I was watching those videos. You guys did a great job. It got me all excited. Although I definitely understand the price anxiety, and and the people yelling at Nintendo. It's like, yeah, you got to apply pressure where you can. So everyone's spamming chat for hours saying lower the price, but here we are, and this is the exact thing that they were not certain about. I, I'm like trying to imagine like what they can do here. And that's really like people. We do this show, Jan, and I'll talk about like what these companies are thinking, and that's not like some magic formula or magic insight. All you have to do is, what if it was your money? Like that's all you have to do. Imagine this was your money and you had a product and you were going to sell it at a price, and someone came and told you, now we need 50% of those dollars that you just made from selling that. That's now ours. And okay, you're left with, you were going to sell it for 500. Now you have 250. Your margins were not $250. They were probably closer to something like, in Nintendo's case, maybe 25%. And that's why they were at the price they were at. And so, yeah, I think like maybe you try to get creative here. You maybe put a ticking time bomb on this to see if you can be the company that applies pressure. And you say, hey, we already have about 1 million systems in the country. We will sell those at the original price, but we're going to have to raise the price on everything following, just to make it
Oh,
very clear that this is about the tariffs. We're not going to, we're predicting this. We're ready for these systems. These are still 450 and 500. And then everything after that, well, as soon as we have to ship in new stuff, we're going to have to raise the price on this because it's just the math. That's, I don't think they will do that, but it's like they are probably going to have to try to get a little creative, because I think people are only going to have so much sympathy with a corporation.
that's true, Grub. I just knowing and seeing the existing landscape and how people behave for something like Pokemon cards and how riots break out in front
Yeah,
of
they probably want to avoid riots. That's a good point. I didn't think about the riots.
how riots have started outside of Pokemon vending machines.
Yeah.
Um, the likelihood that if this initial first batch of Switches are going to be still originally priced at 450, 500, it is going to be bedlam outside of these big box retailers, outside of game stops, outside of your local mom and pop brick and mortars that are going to be selling these. Like Amazon factories, Amazon shipping warehouses may get pillaged, Grub.
Yep. Yeah. I'm like trying to I'm struggling to think of what it's just going to have to be a massive price increase across the board,
Yeah.
and then because of arbitrage selling, because of bootlegging, does the price have to go up even more in other countries so that we don't try to bring in stuff from Canada and Mexico and all these other places where it's now going to be actually much more affordable, even though it was looking like, okay, yeah, it's more expensive in the United States, but in some of these countries, it's even more expensive. Well, maybe not for long. I don't know.
No.
It's an impossible situation.
I hope
Yeah,
it stays cheaper in other countries.
me too.
I
Yes.
hope it does because I don't want the rest of the world to suffer for the fucking mess we have.
They should, and I honestly, I don't know how, like Nintendo can't get away with that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like making it clear it's about US tariffs. They just wouldn't be able to get away with that. They have to just sort of ride with it. And I know they were worried about arbitrage, but they can only use that, like that's their problem, right? That's not
Yeah.
anyone else's. So trying to be like, oh, we're going to treat the world differently because of the United States. That's a way to be like, we don't. It's a way to get associated with the United States instead of being opposed to it. And you just can't run that risk. I don't think so. Yeah, I think, and we deserve it. Yes, people in chat are saying, like, of course, like this is what we get. This is our dishwashing liquid. We got to soak in it, and at least maybe things will get better in his third term, Jan.
Uh, uh, I need all of the people in the Nintendo Treehouse YouTube chat to stop yelling at Nintendo for this.
Yeah,
Because the problem is not at Nintendo. The problem is at the core of the United States. And it turns out this Apple has been rotten for fucking decades. And hey, I know on this website, on GameBreaking News, on the Bombcast, we lightly will touch on politics and everything. And because people will come to these shows, come to this website as a distraction in getting politics out of games, I'm sorry, folks. We can't take politics out of video games because politics is actively fucking up video games now.
Yep.
If you're in the States, fucking go register to vote. Do your fucking research. Actually go call your representatives and use that outrage, use your frustrations, and maybe together the gamers can rise up in a positive way for once.
Yeah, you gotta do more. We gotta get on the streets. You gotta get in your representatives' offices and yell at them.
Don't only be a freak in the sheets, be a freak in the streets.
That's right. Just go right to their faces. They should be scared. I don't know. I don't know what else to say it. Like, this is a distraction, really, because the real threat to all this is fascism. Like, that's what we're dealing with, right? And
Yeah.
fascism is a cancer, and there's only one thing you do to cancer.
Cut it out.
I mean, cut it out with a
Yeah.
knife. Yes.
Burn it.
Yes. So, get out there, do something about it. That's where we're at. And whatever, I'll pay whatever for a fucking Switch 2. Who cares? This is just a small little symptom of so many worse things. We'll maybe figure it out, or we won't. Or it's really what it is, right? Either we figure this out, or we're done. Like,
Yeah.
we're done. It's either we're done or they're done.
And
so do something.
the reality is, Grubb, we may be in a fortunate and comfortable enough position to be able to swing it and pay for the Switch 2. Also,
Yeah, I bought a $450 RetroTink 4K CE to make my GameCube look like an old TV on a new TV. Yeah, I get it.
We're going to need to, because for the nature of our jobs, we need to cover the Switch 2. We're going to need to play these games. But there are people out there that are like barely living from check to check, that are looking for some type of escapism to escape this hellhole world that we're living in, like you mentioned, Greb. And now that solace, that little light at the end of the tunnel, has been snuffed out for them because they can't financially afford food on their plate. That the one thing they were looking forward to this year is now ripped away from them.
Yep. And that's a good point. It's like, this is not just a tariff on video games. A lot of other stuff comes from these countries, including the food that we eat. A lot of fruit, vegetables. Yeah. So all that stuff you need to live is going to get more expensive too. So Switch 2 is going to be way, 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 way down the list. All right, Jan, let's take a break. Let's come back. And when we do, one more story about the Switch 2 and its pricing and the backlash from the perspective of people who actually worked at Nintendo. We'll get into that. And then we'll talk about Dusk Bloods, that new game from Software after this.
One more thing, Grubb.
Yeah, please.
I'm all right. Hey, I'm wearing a specific hat for a reason today on the show. For people watching the video, I realize it's going to be backwards because of Discord. But these, and excuse my language here, these fuckers are going to increase the price of coffee on me. I'm already radicalized, Grubb. If these fuckers are going to take my caffeine away from me, it's over.
No, I'm already there. Like, this is hitting this. My retro tinks and my Chinese handhelds were already getting more expensive. So, yeah, coffee and Chinese handhelds, they really picked the wrong fight here.
Grubb, the united force of you and I, they take away your Chinese handhelds, they take away my coffee. Anyway,
go to hell.
Okay, we're going to
break. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, let's get back into it. As mentioned, former Nintendo, this says PR manager, but they were like product managers. They did a lot of stuff. Comment on Switch 2 pricing backlash. Former Nintendo product managers Kit Ellis and Krista Yang have said in a new video that Nintendo is facing a true crisis moment over the pricing of the Nintendo Switch 2 games and the console in certain countries. They said it was a deliberate omission from Nintendo not to reveal the console price in the presentation, leading fans to scramble online to find out how much the games and the consoles cost. Yesterday, the Nintendo Treehouse stream chat was spammed by fans urging Nintendo to drop the price. Ellis said, "I don't want to blow things out of proportion, but this does feel like a true crisis moment for Nintendo." I think it's obviously still a crisis, but I do think that the tariffs just being explicitly said out loud do shift things a little bit in their favor, where it's like they can point to an obvious reason why this is happening. And they can even say it's worse than we are expecting, which is what they're saying by delaying the pre-order thing. But most people, we have this show. Everyone here understands what's going on. Everyone here does a good job of just kind of thinking about these things in a common sense sort of way and understanding how these things work. The vast majority of people don't care. They see the price for something. They see a company charging that price. It is a straight line from that company wants my money, and they want this amount of money for this thing that when I compare it to other things, like this is no PS5. It's that simple. And so Nintendo does have to sort of deal with that still. And I don't know how they get through that specific crisis other than to make games that are so good that people can't ignore your thing. That's really all they can do, right?
100%, Grubb. Like, it's just a wild world for anyone to try and make sense or try and see a positive in this, because it feels like gloom and doom, because it is gloom and doom. Let's call a spade a spade. And honestly, I do hope that that folks open their eyes and take a look around, because the reality is we're all running out of money, and money is going to, our pockets are going to become, or our purse strings are going to become tighter, because we will have to be choosier with how we're spending money.
Yes.
And that's not just in regard to entertainment. I mean, we've seen across the board with the movie-going audience has dwindled significantly over the years, and that's not just because of the pandemic, Grubb, and people being scared to go to the movie theater. That's because watching movies as a family has become an expensive experience. So if that is something that people are choosing to be more selective with their money, that is going to continue across the board. And hey, maybe I would prefer my family to eat and be comfortable on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis versus having an hour, 2 hours of distraction time with like a new fancy device.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it, Jan. Like, we are all having a personal crisis of the cost of living, and Nintendo having to navigate this crisis, again, their problem to a certain extent. I think it is easy to have or it helps to have them sort of become this iconographic representation of this fight and make it very easy to understand. The tariffs are going up in a product they're shipping from very specific countries. It's going to cost more because of that, and it doesn't make any sense. So it's just like, why is any of this happening? It's a little bit easier to understand than like the complexities of going grocery shopping, something people just do out of habit and don't think about too much, and then they just see the price go up, and that just hurts. It just hurts, and that's all they can really process. It's all I can process usually. And everything's going up in price. My God, it's so frustrating, Jan, because it's like I have less money, even though I'm making more money in some ways. But so it's like, what does that matter if I have less? And then like, oh, cool. Like I bought a house during the pandemic. That was pretty cool. And it's gone up in value, Jan. That's pretty exciting. You know what that means? More property taxes. My property taxes now are significantly more. So it's like, oh, can I even afford this house that I don't know. It's getting like out of hand because it's like I should be feeling good because this thing I bought is worth more and it's only hurting. So it's like, how
Yeah.
does everything, no matter what angle it comes from, just causes more pain? And so everyone's dealing with this. And so sympathize with Nintendo to an extent, but not all that much.
Yeah.
Deal with your crisis on your own. We can't really help you.
And the other aspect of this, Grub, is you could tell people to go outside, go for a hike, go visit a park, go visit a national park, perhaps. But hey, even those are being hit.
Yep. Yeah, everything's being taken away. Yeah, it's and yeah, I don't know what we do other than sort of continue to try to bring this whole thing down.
Hey,
So
maybe let's just keep the kids in school. Maybe they'll be fine over there. They can get their time occupied there at public schools. Oh, wait. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
uh-huh. Well, at least in Ohio here, they're going to subsidize that with Bible study, so that's fun. Um,
Cool.
Yep, cool country. I am, yeah, I'm pissed off at all this, and so when I see people in chat yelling at Nintendo, and yeah, you're right, the Treehouse people having to deal with that, I empathize with everybody. I empathize with the people at Treehouse having to deal with that, and I empathize with the people who just are like, how dare you charge me more? Everything else is charging me more. You're gonna do this as well. Like, look at this. You're as much as a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, and the power doesn't justify that. It's a very easy thing to understand for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, this is a crisis that doesn't feel like it has an easy solve. So I think we're
Yeah.
going to have to kind of stand back and see what Nintendo does next. And I don't think it's going to be anything other than more pain.
And the real unfortunate part, Grub, is like, Dan and I did get to go to that event, and you got to see the hard work that had been like going on for years, right? At this
Yeah.
point to gear up for the Switch 2 launch. And video games, as we all know at this point, hopefully we know at this point, are not an instantaneous turnaround process. They take years and years of development to do. And especially when you were trying to tackle something like new hardware, to see all of that work kind of just get thrown away, and just now the common consensus or the general consensus being like, oh, this is too expensive, drop the prices. Instead of like, being able to celebrate your years of hard work finally getting to be out there for people is so deflating. It's got to be so deflating for like the Nintendo Treehouse team, the Nintendo teams out there. And like now, what should have been a celebratory moment for the Switch 2 finally being announced and coming out so soon is now being dominated by this idea that like it is incredibly expensive, or maybe incredibly expensive because of real life things.
Yep. And all those people that like work there, they like sit down, isolated, siloed off from reactions, and they just try to like look at the numbers and figure out like what is fair for both them selling a product and people buying a product. They want to be in that sweet spot. That is, just when you look at basic economics, that's where you sell the most, or that's where you make the most money, is charging the highest price that the market can bear while also being able to get the most customers interested in actually converting to pay that price. And so they do things like, and I know no one wants to hear it, but they're like, okay, $60 in 2017 does come out to about $80 now. That is inflation. That's just the raw inflation that we've already had. And my response to that is the same as everyone else's. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. Everything else is more expensive. I'm not making more money. What does that have to do with me? So I get that. But these people sitting here trying to be like, okay, we're spending a lot of money on this stuff. We want to have a new launch. We got to set ourselves up for success for 5 to 10 years for this next generation. This price is probably fair, right? Everything else has gone up. We're paying people more. Let's actually set the store. It's like, okay, it's $80 per game, and it's all, and we see it's like this is a cash grab, and again, it is. This is these companies just like again, think of it as if it was your money. If you could get more money, you would take more money. They can get more money, they're going to take more money, and it's so it is a cash grab, but it is a cash grab informed by the environment in which we exist. Um, so yeah, I think that the backlash is probably actually going to subside here a little bit over the next couple of days, as the attention does turn specifically onto these tariffs. Um, but it's really going to be it's going to determine on how Nintendo navigates the next few days and comes back and tells us how is this going to work with pre-orders. All right, other stories, other headlines. Why FromSoft is all in on multiplayer with Switch 2 game The Duskbloods. This is from Michael McWhorter at Polygon. Dark Souls developer From Software surprised fans and perplexed some with this week's reveal of a new competitive multiplayer game for Switch 2, The Duskbloods. Alongside Elden Ring Night Rain, it's the second multiplayer forward game coming from the studio, which is best known for its immersive role playing games. But there's a reason why the Duskbloods director, Hidetaka Miyazaki, is focusing heavily on competitive multiplayer. In a new interview with Nintendo, the game director and From Software president says, I've always found the PvPvE structure very interesting. It allows for a broad range of game design ideas, while also letting us leverage our experience of designing challenging enemy encounters. Miyazaki unpacks those game design ideas in the interview, saying that the playable characters in the Duskbloods, which are known as Bloodsworn, have abilities that lend themselves to multiplayer action, including dashes, double jumps, and long range attacks. The Duskbloods setting, he says, allows for the depiction of firearms, such as every character is equipped with some means of attacking from a distance. I feel this is one of the game's unique aspects when compared with our previous titles. I hope these new action elements are one area that the players will enjoy. The 8-player PvPvE structure of the Duskbloods will follow a last player standing rule set for the most part, but the win conditions in the game's multiplayer matches vary. Players may need to eliminate a specific player or team up with another to take down a boss, or they may receive new orders from that creepy moon with wings seen in the game's reveal trailer. Miyazaki says that, like past From Software titles, we've therefore designed the PvE boss encounters to present a tough challenge and a sense of accomplishment upon defeating them. He also confesses to being not much of a PvP person himself, explaining that the Duskbloods boss battles should satisfy the From Software fans who come to their games for PvE. Regardless of whether it's PvP or PvE, the idea to provide players with an experience that allows them to learn and hone their skills as they play is the goal here, according to Miyazaki. Jan, where are you at with the Duskbloods? I haven't had a chance to talk about this with you too much. I think it is still a difficult one to pin down about exactly what it's going to be like. To me, I'm very interested still, although admittedly less interested than if this were to be, say, a Bloodborne successor, in everything but name.
Right. I think the common consensus initially, when the trailer was dropping, was that, oh, is this going to be just straight up Bloodborne, a Bloodborne 2, the spiritual successor? And now that we're learning more about it, I think I'm still pretty excited because, Miyazaki has been hard at work. They haven't let him out of the Souls mines for years now. And I am interested to see what his take on this genre could and would be. And also, like, I feel like they wouldn't make this a Switch 2 exclusive if they didn't believe that folks would get really interested and entangled into it.
Yeah, I think that they're maybe thinking about going after, and I know Monster Hunter doesn't have real PvP, but I think they're trying to maybe position it that way, and that's why the Nintendo Switch maybe makes sense to them. They're like, that audience is on here, so we'll have quests that you can go on, and sometimes it is about you teaming up with another person and taking down a monster. That's
Yeah.
kind of what he's saying. That could be very Monster Hunter. And then in some situations, it'll be one player has something you need, and you have to take them down. And the whole crew has to go after them. It's a VIP situation. Um, I think that they are like, we want this to kind of be the kind of game where people are just carrying their Switch 2s with them everywhere, and they're playing the game in short bursts, constantly as a hobby for a very long time, the way that Monster Hunter has been in Japan for decades now and has become elsewhere at this point. Uh, you know, I want to see that. I'm like I'm interested in that to a point, but I do want the ability to be like, hey, most of the time I want to be playing on my own, and then if that means sometimes I walk into an area and something multiplayer begins, I'm gonna be okay with that. But I want to play these games sort of on my own, trying to figure
Yeah.
out these scary, creepy places, trying to get my bearings, and then if there's multiplayer intersections with that gameplay, that sounds okay to me.
Yeah, I almost anticipate this kind of being uh, almost emulating like a Destiny 2 or maybe like even a Final Fantasy 14 experience where like you can get through a good chunk of this game on your own. But there will be opportunities and moments where ah snap, I got to interact with people. Or you can kind of just skirt by and doing your solo stuff because I'm with you Grub, I kind of prefer that. But also I do see this and hearing that Monster Hunter is a point of comparison, I do kind of maybe see them going for the OG Monster Hunter freak audience that existed on the Nintendo DS or 3DS and the Wii, where they want this very niche experience, and we're going to put this on the niche console and appear to those freaks.
Yeah, I don't know. I trust From Software to make something that is worth our time at the very least. So I'm still very curious about this. It's not we're not going to get it till 2026. Probably a lot of time for us to learn a lot more in various other presentations. But yeah, Switch 2 exclusive From Software game. PvP is a focus. You can see all the reasons why people are like, I'm interested, I'm not interested. Like, what is this thing? I can't believe it's Switch exclusive, but it is. So it's going to be a curious one when it does finally come out. Miyazaki did go on to say that he promises Switch 2 exclusive Duskblood won't distract From Software from their single player games. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Elden Ring director Hidetaka Miyazaki has said that the recently announced Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, The Duskbloods, won't mean that From Software is moving away from a traditional single player game development focus. The Duskbloods, a brand new multiplayer focused game from Software, was announced during Wednesday's Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Now, speaking as part of the Nintendo Creators Voice series, Hidetaka Miyazaki explains how the Duskbloods came to be and his interest in the PvP genre. But really, he just kind of gets to a point where he's like, we still intend to actively develop single player focused games such as Elden Ring that embrace our more traditional style. Yeah, I'm getting the sense, Jan, that Elden Ring taking as long as it did, I think it was their longest development time ever for a game. Like as they were wrapping that up and looking at like other projects to take on, they did want to try some other stuff. So we did get
Yeah.
Armored Core 6 and we are getting Elden Ring Night Rain where it's like, okay, we do have a lot of the assets and let's find creative ways to reuse that while trying something new. And we have this PvP stuff in our games already. Let's expand on that. Or I guess Night Rain is PvE. But then let's take the PvP stuff and apply that to this Nintendo game. Nintendo wants to work with us, and Miyazaki wants to work with them apparently and make a game
Yeah.
specifically for them. He wants to explore his game design ideas in this format. It seems like they're doing these dalliances in the meantime to help them refresh for what is almost certainly going to be an eventual Elden Ring follow up of whatever that looks like, right?
Exactly. They're following what RGG has been doing for quite a while now, where
Yeah, good
they
example.
they have this existing tool set, these assets, and instead of kind of trying to do like an asset flip game that is maybe considered as mediocre, they're trying to do a spin on it with their existing tool set. And hey, like for as much as the prospect of what Duskbloods is pushing forward may not necessarily be for me, there is a gigantic PvP audience in Elden Ring, in the Souls games that love messing with each other or invading someone's world. So I don't see this as like detracting from whatever FromSoft is hard at work doing. I feel like this is the type of project that you can kind of maybe have fun with, maybe be a little bit lighter with those existing assets and be like, hey, let's try and do this. Like I remember from a couple months ago, sometime last year, Miyazaki was interviewed and he was interested about the prospects of like, oh, what if I did a turn-based game? And, I didn't think he would be building something from the ground up. I would have assumed he'd be using some existing assets from an old Souls game or Elden Ring or, a turn-based Armored Core? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love that. Exactly. I do want them still making their RPGs, and personally, I want Elden Ring 2. That's what I want, and my expectation is that's going to take a very, 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 very long time. So if they can spend some time, I imagine while he's making Duskbloods, there is another larger team getting a bunch of new art assets ready, new lore ready, maybe letting George R.R. cook just for another half an hour worth of notes or whatever, and getting the land fertilized for that team to come back and focus on the next RPG in full. Now, it could be a Dark Souls, could be a Sekiro follow-up or whatever. There's a bunch of stuff they could do. But, the one I want is more Elden Ring. I'll be honest, that's the one I want. And all of that is likely what he's going to return to here very quickly. And I think that they are almost certainly have a lot of people already working on that in this moment, even though Duskbloods isn't coming out till 2026. So, yeah, I'm just not that concerned here. And I think most fans, when they think about it, probably won't be as well. Although for people who don't want this, I don't blame them for being like, this does feel like a distraction for me personally, because this is not something I'm going to play. So I get it. All right. Last couple of stories here. Nintendo explains why Switch 2 doesn't run every original Switch game flawlessly, from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. I think we mentioned that they were talking about having a hybrid of a solution for emulation, where it's both hardware and software. This is where it comes from. But they've put out a list that's a pretty lengthy list of games that will have some sort of issue, and they're saying that they're investigating everything, investigating all these problems. And it's mostly going to be like the kinds of lists that you see on wikis for emulators, like the Dolphin emulator, where it's like, hey, this game has a certain graphical glitch in one area where the colors don't show up right, or an alpha layer doesn't display properly, that sort of thing. And they're just being completely transparent. So there's, it's a long list of games, but they said the reason this has happened is because it is mostly a software emulation solution. There isn't a Switch 1 in the Switch 2. So what hardware is in there when they're saying they're doing a kind of a combination? My guess what they mean by that is NVIDIA built them something specific to put on the system on a chip to make the software run better for emulation. And that's what they're getting at, or I don't know. Maybe there's no way there's an FPGA chip on there. That's not what's happening, because that would be way too expensive. So some other creative solution, but this is mostly just a software emulator running these games. And so, yeah, they're going to run into graphical issues, which is something that happens when the PlayStation and the Xbox emulates these old games as well. I'm just happy that backward compatibility is there, and if it's a little bit tricky, I'll be okay. There's a certain level where it's like, if the games really have a lot of problems, I'm going to be really annoyed, because it's like, God, you guys should have figured this out. But I don't think that doesn't sound like what this is, Jan. So us playing old Switch games on Switch 2 sounds like it's mostly not going to be a problem.
Yeah. Of course they come after me in Pokemon, Grubb.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Marcus in chat just said the Analog 64 is now going to be $600. Yeah, they keep delaying that thing too. So they almost got that thing out before the tariffs, but nope. Now they've delayed it, so now they're going to be right in the heart of them, right in the meat.
Gang,
probably $350.
I hope y'all enjoy the phone that you have right now, and I hope that the phone you have right now is operating, and can function and the batteries aren't quickly dying or whatever, because we all got to strap in for this one, folks.
Yep. Yeah. People might remember, me and you, Jam, were talking about how manufacturing isn't happening here. Like, well, what about the $50 billion that Joe Biden signed to get the chips produced here in America? That stuff is still in place. But the plan was that was going to take literal decades. And even when they did get that done, the chips they were producing are not going to be the super processors that are being produced in Taiwan. So, yeah, if you want a phone that has a decent chip and you want it in the next 5 years, you're still going to have to pay all these tariffs.
Here's the thing, Grubb. All right. You know what? This metaphor is going to take way too long. Basically, what I was going to say, the TLDR, I'd rather buy a croissant from an old woman in France versus someone straight out of a culinary program that they kind of skated and skirted by here in the States. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're not like that's literally what we're talking about too. Like, and the processors that they make at the TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturer, they have the most talented people in the world working there already, and they all go there to work on this stuff. They aren't here. They literally are not here. The people that can do this work. So you would have to train them up. And even if you do train them up, the expectation that they would be as good as the people who have been doing this and learned the hard way how to do lithography at 3 nanometers, something that is physically basically impossible. It's a joke. It's a joke that we're going to get there. And listen, I do think that the $50 billion on the CHIP Act was a good idea. I love investment in United States manufacturing. Critically, we do need these chips for weapons. Like if we're going to have a military or whatever, you got to have missiles, and the missiles need these. That's what we sunk the USSR, was not being able to keep up with semiconductors that were going into missiles. And so, yeah, I get it. But that's not going to save us money on our phones, and we're not going to start making Nintendo Switch 2s here. That's not happening. All right, and then Nintendo confirmed Switch 2 GameCube games are going to come at launch, and that's going to include the handful of launch games, which were Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX. I think Pokemon's probably coming pretty soon after that. That was Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. They were showing off GameCube games on the Treehouse stream yesterday. And I think they had Super Mario Strikers as the 4th game in there. So that also seems like maybe that's coming, because later they came back and that wasn't there anymore. So they had a different version of GameCube ready to go. But other games that will come later: Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Super Mario Strikers, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon Coliseum. Those all don't have a date, but the GameCube itself will be there at launch. And I think, Jan, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for the show today, for the headlines. Let's get to the poll questions from yesterday. Did we actually get that posted? I can't remember, or if we did or not. Yes, I don't think we actually got that posted. So we'll catch up, everybody. I'll do one more check-in, because we got more votes on the grade, the Switch 2 Direct. 45% gave it a B, 30% gave it an A, 17% C, 8% gave it a D or lower. We only had 1 hour of results yesterday. So there you go. I think we asked, are you going to get a Switch 2? Maybe a good thing we do save that question. We'll put that in there, and we'll ask that now, because who the hell knows? I don't know. Am I going to be able to find one? And will I be able to afford it? I have no idea. So we'll see from there. Jan, what do we have going on the website?
Later today, or right after this, we're gonna roll into BCR. We may just do a fun trip report from New York, with Dan and I telling you and whoever is available to join about the fun times we had. We did have good pizza, at least. That's
good.
That's fun.
That's nice.
I saw a building that said Minotti on the side of it, and I got scared.
Ooh. Rightfully so.
But after that, we're going to have Unprofessional Fridays. I believe we're going to be doing some hardcore parkour. I forget the specific name of the game, but we're going to jump in together and jump around. And then we're going to have the GameSpot homies finishing off the day with GameSpot After Dark. And yeah, if you missed it yesterday, on the GameSpot YouTube channel, we put out a quick hands-on impressions video that Dan and I chatted together about. We're going to try to have a little bit of a longer one, because Dan and I filmed a longer discussion that we had and put that out on the GB YouTube sometime, if not today, over the weekend. Promise. I just want to get that out of there, folks.
Yep, that was good work so far. Looking forward to talking to y'all on BCR here in a minute. All right, let's see here. We do have a new poll question as well, so maybe we'll run both of these. Are you going to get a Switch 2? Yes or no? And what are we even doing here, gang, is the new poll question. Your options are woof, a pain sigh, or yeah, man, and then stares. You just kind of stare. Those are your options. Vote on that, and we'll get the results and talk about it on Game Breaking News here on Giant Bomb on the Power Block on Monday. Speaking of the Power Block, look forward to seeing here on the BCR here in the next couple of minutes. With all that out of the way, Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for getting me through this today, man. I really appreciate it.
Somehow we have to start the day.
Yes, somehow we have to. And in the meantime, Yeah, get those unyas in chat. All right, yeah, maybe we can add unya to the. There we go. Yeah, I added it to one of the options there on the poll. All right, thank you all for watching. You're the best audience in gaming, and that's for every reason. You come in here, you guys are ready to talk about this stuff, ready to listen. You have a lot of common sense. It's easy to have this conversation when I know you all are the ones hearing it on the other side because you already are thinking about this selves. You're thinking about these things yourselves. Let's get out of here. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Tell a friend about the show.
Yeah.